So test case 3 is wrong. So the test case T3 produces an incorrect result because syntactically it may be correct, but an employee with the employee at 0 will not get any salary, even if his basic salary is read as input, because his employee is 0. So it has to be modified. So now this test case T3 we have done, it has to be now modified. Acha, okay. So what we will do now? Let's see, one minute. Basic is greater than and employee ID is greater than 0. See, what was the problem? Because why this T3 is taken here? Because why we have designed T3 by giving basic 10,000 and employee 0. Why it is giving this result? Because we have used the OR condition here. Basic, either if basic pay is greater than 5,000 or employee ID greater than 0. So since basic ID is basic pay is greater than 10,000, even if 0 we have taken for employee, it is computing the gross pay, which should not happen. So now we have seen that due to this statement S3, T3 is giving some result which is wrong. So there is a need to modify statement S3. What we can modify? We can replace this or with and. That means if basic pay is greater than 5,000 and employee ID is greater than 0, then you compute the gross pay. So let us modify this thing. So now S3 is modified as this or is replaced with and symbol. Now what will happen? We have to rerun again all those things T1, T2, T3. But since we have changed here, and based on this then part will be executed or the else part will be executed. So I have to rerun all the three cases T1, T2, T3 again. But now you'll see, suppose I have made a change at statement number S7. Okay, S7, see this one, the else part. Suppose I have replaced with 15, this 15 I have replaced with 25. That means instead of making the 15%, I have made 25%. Then what will happen? Do I require to rerun all those T1, T2, T3? The answer will be no. Because why? This case is executed when? When the basic pay is less than 5,000. But T1, T3, these are greater than 5,000 value. So why should I rerun T1 and T3? Because they are not affected. The corresponding statements are not affected. What will be affected? Only T2 will be affected because S7 will be executed only when basic pay is less than 5,000. So only T2 will be executed. So when I am making any change to S7, there is no need to rerun all T1, T2, T3. I can prioritize now. Which one I will execute? Only T2. So T2 will be given the first priority and only that one will execute it. T1 and T3 need not be executed. So how do I get this thing? By using this concept of execution slice. That means for T2, which statement is affected? This S7 and S8 are affected. So the execution slice will be this. So whenever there will be some change in S7, I need to rerun only test case T2. In this way, you can prioritize these test cases and only T2 will be given the priority 1 and only that one will be executed. So if there is a, please now see, if there is a change in S3, all these things will be executed, T1, T2, T3, because the corresponding statements are affected. But if I am making a change at S7, only T2 needs to be executed. That's what I have told, that if S3 is modified, I have to rerun all S1, T1, T2, T3. But if there is a change in S7, then only T2 will be rerun. So in this way, by using the concept of execution slice, we can prioritize the test cases. So in the execution slice, what will happen? We'll have less number of statements. If we'll consider the full program, all the statements you have to run. But if we'll compute the execution slice, only those statements will be rerun. So in the execution slice, we will have less number of statements to be executed. For this program, the execution slice is shown as bold faces, like S7 I am changing. So what things will be affected? Obviously, I have to take this read value, input value, then initialization value gross is equal to 0. And what else? That the else part will be executed, and S7 and S8. And finally, I have to print the value S9. So those statements marked as bold, they will be executed. I think just check S3 might be executed because the condition where you will get it is less than 2000. This I think S3 will be, it is I think wrongly it is not bold. I think it should be also bold so that this will be executed and then we'll execute S7 and S8. So this requires understanding of slicing. I have in the last class taken one example of slicing, please see, and here I have used that concept. So I am saying that S7 I am looking at, or isn't it? At S7 I am making the change. I have to see which statements are affected. So if S7 I am taking, obviously the S will be affected. And how can reach at S7? I have to first supply the value, basic value and employee ID, then gross is equal to 0, then if basic is greater than 5000. And since you say when I am getting 2000, obviously S4 and S5 will be skipped and I will come to S7, S8. So the statements, those which are shown as bold faces, they are included in the execution slice. And once you can compute the execution slice for a given test case, you can prioritize the test cases accordingly. The example already explains those things. Next is dynamic slice. I have already told you the definition of dynamic slice in that class. What is dynamic slice? Dynamic slice is the set of steps which are affected at a particular statement for a particular slicing criterion for a specific input. The difference between static slicing and dynamic slicing I have already told you. In static slice, it is independent of input. Whatever input you may give, the slice will remain same. That statements including the slice will remain same. What is dynamic slice? As you change, as you will change the input, the slice will also include. For example, when there are if statement, either the then part will be executed or the else part will be executed. So depending upon your input, like the previous example we have taken, if you will give something less than 5000, the else part will be executed. If you will give more than 5000, the then part will be executed. So this definition, static slice, dynamic slice, then backward slice, forward slice, we have already explained earlier. Please have a look into that. So dynamic slice means the set of statements under a test case having an effect on the program output. It is called the dynamic slice of the program with respect to the output variables. So please recall the discussion which was made in some of the earlier classes. Small example I have taken to again explain this concept of dynamics. So here I have taken the if statement. Here you can see it's taking two values as input A, B, then finding out the sum. So sum is equal to 0, I is equal to 0. If A is equal to 0, then print B. If B is equal to 0, then if A is equal to 0, then sum is equal to sum plus B. If B is equal to 0, sum is equal to sum plus A. And otherwise sum is equal to A plus B plus sum. Okay, now it will show the sum, the value of the sum. Now let's see what could be the possible test cases. I have taken 3 test cases. In one case A is 0, another case B is equal to 0, another case none of them are 0. Accordingly the sums are calculated. So again A and B are input, sum is the output. I have designed the test cases accordingly. Now let's see. The inference you will take by making some changes. Suppose we have made a change at 10.1. What is 10.1? I is equal to 25. I had made a change. Like I have made I is equal to 50 instead of 25. Then what will happen? So T1, T2, T3 will run correctly. But if some modification is done in 10.1, that means instead of writing I is equal to 25, I had made I is equal to 50. Then this change will not affect the output variable, isn't it? Just say here up to this 10 sum is calculated, then I is changed to I is equal to 25. So this it will only affect this print statement, that's been 10.2. So if you will make any change in 10.1, that means I value we have taken 50 in place of 25. No other statement will be affected. Which one will affected? Only 10.2. That means printing value this will be different. But if you are interested in finding the value of sum, those statements will not be affected, and hence I do not require to rerun the test cases T1, T2, T3 that I have shown here, because In this case, I am interested in the sum, not for the value of I. So none of the test cases, they have to be rerun. Okay. So there is no need to rerun any of the test cases. On the other hand, now suppose you will change 10. This line number 10, I will change what? Instead of writing a sum is equal to a plus b plus sum, suppose I have written sum equal to a star b, a multiplication b plus sum. Then what will happen? Will there be any change? Some of the test cases have to be rerun. Yes, because I am getting here final print value is sum. So what will done? Which test case I have to rerun? Please say. In first test case, a is equal to 0 I have taken. Second test case, b is equal to 0. So that means for first test case, which will be in which line will be executed? This S4 A5. For if b is equal to 0, then these will executed. But I am making changes where 10 and 3 is for which one? None of them are 0. That means if none of them are 0, then this else part will be executed. 10, 10.1, 10.2 will be executed. So now in this, if I have made any statement change in line number 10, that means a plus b, this plus is replaced with the multiplication, then which test cases need to be rerun? Because now I have changed some statement. So this is, I have to perform regression testing. I don't have sufficient time to rerun all the test cases. That is also not required at all. So which test case needs to be rerun? Only T3, because you can see that this part is executed only when both of A and B are not 0. That means they are non-zero. In which case they are non-zero? In T3 case. So if I will make any change at line number 10, what will be, which test cases has to be rerun? Only T3. So that means T3 will get first priority. Rank priority 1. So how I get it? Dynamic slice. So here you can see print sum. If you will, and for what value of A, B you have taken, accordingly you can see. If any one of them you have taken 0, accordingly, if A is 0, then S4, S5 is the dynamic slice. If B is 0, then S7, S8 will be there. If both of them are non-zero, then 10, 10.1, 10.2 is 0. In all the cases, printf will be there. Last S12 will be there. So in this way, you compute the dynamic slice, and if you know the dynamic slice, you can prioritize the test cases. So that's what you have seen here. If there is a change in line number 10, then only for this given set of test cases, only in this way you can prioritize the test cases. Okay. So on the other hand, if S10 is changed, like that plus is replaced with the star, then this change will affect the output variable sum. So hence we need to rerun only test case T3, not T1 and T2. So the dynamic slice is highlighted in the code segment. So what are the dynamic slice you can see? I have already told you T3 will execute what? T3 is executing this sum value, both of them non-zero. And what will be printed? Sum value. So S10 and S12. And where you will get the value? S1 and S2. So my dynamic slice for this what sum will include which statements? S1, S2 and which one? 10 and 12. Because I am making a change where? In line number 10. What statements will be affected? It will be affecting line number 12. And how I can got 10? I have to read the values A, B and sum is equal to 0. So the dynamic slice for this case will be S1, S2, S10 and S12. Okay, that I have explained here. The dynamic slice is highlighted in the code segment. That means the dynamic slice will include the statements S1, S2, S10 and S12. So in this way, the execution slice and the dynamic slice will help you in prioritizing the test cases. Okay. Now one more is left, that is called a relevant slice. What do you mean by relevant slice? Relevant slice means the set of statements that were executed under the test case and did not affect the output. So far, they have not affected the output, but they have the potential to affect the output. Okay, produced by a test case. This is known as relevant slice. We have already seen execution. We have already seen static slice. We We have already seen dynamic slice. Next definition is relevant. What do you mean by relevant slice? Relevant slice means it is the set of the statements that were already executed under a test case or a for a test case, and they did not affect. They are having the potential to affect the output produced by a test case. They are called as this set of statements are called as relevant slice. For example, let's take this example. So in this previous example that I have taken, S3 and S6 for a given test case, these test cases we have taken. So these test cases we have taken, S3 or the last one you may consider T3. So in this case, what happened? These statements S3 and S6, because they are not executed. Which one is executed? The else part, because they are non-zero. So S3 and S6, they have not affected the output, but they are having the potential. Anytime you will change this this statement, whenever you will make change the statement to this, that means instead of A not equal to 0, you will write not equal to 0. B equal to 0, B not equal to 0. Then they will affect the output print sum. Now currently, they are not affecting the output. You may take directly A is not equal to 0, B is not equal to 0. So they are not executed. But there is a possibility, if you will change S3 and S6, suppose if A is equal to 5 or A not equal to 0 and B not equal to 0, then the whole output will be affected. So they will be included in the relevant slice. So statement says S3 and S6, that means that A is equal to 0 and B equal to 0. No, this statement says S3 and S6, they are currently not executing, but they have the potential, okay? They have not currently affected the output, but they have the potential to affect the output if they are modified. On the basis of relevant slices, we can also prioritize the test cases. This technique is very much useful for prioritizing the regression test suite, which will save time and effort for regression. So this is called as a relevant slice. Then another technique we'll quickly see, prioritization based on the requirements. This technique is used for prioritization of the system test cases. We have already seen unit testing, integration testing, system testing. So this technique is used for prioritization of the system test cases. The system test cases, they also become too large in number. This testing is performed on many grounds. You have known different test case system testing techniques such as stress testing, load testing, volume testing, configuration testing, and then your usability testing, etc. These are all examples of system testing. These test cases, they also become too large in number as this testing is performed on many grounds. Since the system test cases are largely dependent on what? They are largely dependent on requirements, isn't it? They are very, we can call them as this non-requirements testing. Since the system test cases are largely dependent on the requirements, they can be analyzed to priority test cases. So in order to prioritize the test cases, we have to analyze the requirements as written in the SRS document, the non-functional requirements. This technique doesn't consider all the requirements on same level. So according to this technique, because we are prioritizing the test cases based on the requirements, this technique does not consider all the requirements on the same level. Some requirements, they may be more important and they may be more critical as compared to others. And hence the test cases and hence the corresponding test cases should have given much weight and they should have been executed earlier. Okay. This technique does not consider all the requirements on the same level. Some requirements are more important and they are critical as compared to others. And these test cases, they have more weight. And these test cases having more weight, they are executed much earlier. So that if time will not get, some of the less important test cases should be skipped. But these highly important test cases, they should be executed earlier so that they will not be skipped. Hema Srikanth and others, they have proposed a requirement-based test case prioritization technique. This is known as PORT. PORT stands for prioritization of requirements for test cases or prioritization of requirements for test. They have taken 4 factors for analyzing and measuring the criticality requirements. They are the criticality of the requirements. They are as follows, like first, they have considered 4 factors. Let's see what are the 4 factors. First factor is the customer assigned priority of requirements. Okay. First factor is the customer assigned priority of requirements. So how do you assign the priority here? Based on priority, the customer assigns a weight to each requirement. Since its name is customer assigned priority of requirements. So what is the priority of the customer? For which requirement, how much priority he wants to give? Say this is a highly requirement or compute the file. He may give 1. Or just showing the items or books on the screen may be a low priority thing. He may give less number of priority or low priority. So as its name suggests, customer assigned priority of requirements. Here the customer will give a priority to each requirement. Based on the priority, the customer assigns a weight on the scale of 1 to 10 each requirement. Say which is very highly required for him, he may give 10, very less required, he may give priority 1. Then requirement volatility. You have known volatility in chemistry. If a gas is what, immediately it is vaporizes. So similarly here, if a requirement frequently changes, we call as it is more volatile. So requirement volatility means this is a rating based on the frequency of changes of a requirement. How frequently you are changing your requirement. That means that is highly volatile. If you are frequently making changes, you give high priority. So otherwise you give low priority. So requirement volatility means this is rating, this is the priority based on the frequency of change of a requirement. Then we will come to the developer side. Developer perceived implementation complexity. All the requirements, they do not take same effort by the developer. Some of the requirements are very difficult to implement, they are very complex, and some of the requirements, they are very easy to implement. So now the developer will give some value, some price. The developer gives more weight to a requirement which he thinks is more difficult to implement. So he will give more value, more priority value. If it is very easy, just a small GUI, he may give less priority. Next factor is fault proneness of requirements. How far the requirement is prone, it is fault prone. This factor is identified based on the previous versions of the system. From your experience, the previous version of the system, you can find which module is more fault prone, which requirement is more fault. If a requirement in an earlier version of the system has more number of bugs, that means it is error prone, then this requirement in the current version is given more weight, because you have seen in the previous version this requirement was more error prone. So you have to give more weight this time. You have to give more weight in the current version. This factor cannot be considered for new software because you have not dealt the previous version. For new software, this factor will vanish, or simply you can give 0. So then how will prioritize? So prioritization factor value. Based on these 4 factor values, a prioritization factor value PFB is computed. How? By using the following equation. PFB of so now we have seen the 4 factor values. So based on these 4 factor values, a prioritization factor value is computed as given below. The equation is PFBI equal to summation of FBIJ into FWJ. FBIJ means factor value. FB means this is the factor value of what? Of factor J. So for factor J, what is the factor value? Corresponding to requirement I. So I is the requirement and FBIJ the factor value. It is the value of factor J corresponding to requirement I. And what is FWJ? It is factor weight. Okay. FW stands for factor weight. It is the weight given to factor J. Then you can find out the PFBI. So similarly, you can I think you can compute the total PFB maybe by performing the addition. So but here we require that I is the requirement. So for each requirement, compute the prioritization factor value. Then you prioritize all the requirements based on these values. PFB is then used to produce a prioritized list of system test cases. If you can prioritize the requirements, then you can easily prioritize the corresponding system test cases. Okay, this is how this method, that port method works. Okay. Now let's quickly, within 5 minutes, you will see how to measure the effectiveness. I have already told so many techniques. So now suppose a person has used many techniques for prioritizing the test suite. How to measuring the effectiveness? Which technique is more efficient? How to measure the effectiveness of a prioritized test suite? There is a technique called there is a metric for this purpose called as FFD. Album ETL, that means they have developed this metric. Album ETL developed a metric named APFD metric that measures the weighted average of percentage of first false detected during the execution of a test case. So APFD stands for average percentage of false detection. So this metric measures the weighted average of percentage of the false detected during the execution of a test suite. It normally varies, it ranges from 0 to 100, where a higher value means faster fault detection rate. In some of the books, you will see that it varies from 0 to 1. So it will vary. So 0 to 1 means you will get in terms of points, decimal points. Otherwise, it is 0 to 10 may slightly vary from books to books. How will compute FFD? Is computed using this following equation. It's a metric to detect how quickly a test suite identifies the different faults. FFD is a metric to detect how quickly a test suite identifies the faults. It is defined as follows: FFD is equal to 1 minus TF1 plus TF2 like plus TFM divided by NM plus 1 by 2N. Where please try to understand, this is important. What is TF1 or TF2 or in general TFI? Where TFI is the position of the first test in the test suite T. A test suite T contains a number of test cases. So what is TFI? Where TFI is the position in the location of the first test case in the test suite T, which exposes fault I. I will explain it through an example. What is M? M is the total number of faults exposed in the system or the module under test. And what is N? N is the total number of test cases present in T. Okay, M is the total number of faults exposed in the system, whereas N is the total number of test cases in T. Okay, so now pictorially you can say that if you are taking the x-axis the test suite fraction, I mean the number of test cases here, and in y-axis the percentage detected, the percent detected faults, then this area, this bounded area will represent. Now you can better understand it. Small example. So consider a program with 10 faults and the test suite of 10 test cases. That means your test suite T contains 10 test cases like this: T1, T2 up to Tn, T10. T1 discover what this test case T1 identifies faults F3, F5, F9. T2 detects faults F2, F3, and F5, etc., F8, etc. Okay. Now I am having the test case, and this order is a normal set. Just T1, T2, T3. This is the order. Now I have to calculate the efficiency of this test suite, this test suite. So here, perhaps I have not used any prioritization technique, directly whatever the test cases in the same order I have written. So how to compute the FFD? I have to go to the formula. In the formula, what is saying? TF1. TF1 means the position of the first test in test suite T, which exposes fault I. So here you will see, when I come to this, you see, look at this table, this is given to me. This is fault 1. So I have to first find out TF1. What is TF1? TF1 is the position of the first test in the test suite T that exposes fault 1. So let's see, where is fault 1? Fault 1. Which test case first determines F1? T5. So T5 determines the first T5. I want to say that which test case detects for the first time F1. You can see that T5 and T8 detect, but T5 detects first. So I have to find out the location of T5 in my test suite. So what is the location of T5? You can see One, it is normal 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So location is 5. So that's why I've written here 5. Then let's come to T2, F2. F2 here quickly. Many test cases detect F2, such as T2, T3, T4, T6. So what is the location of, so, but which one is fast? T2 detects fast. What is its position here? T2, its position is 2. So I have written here 2. Similarly, let's see for third test case. So third fault, which one detects fast? So many. T1, T2, T3, T4 and T8. But which one detects for the first time? T1. What is the position in my series? T1 occurs first, so 1. In this way, I have identified all the positions. Then what is N into M? N is number of test cases 10. M is number of faults also 10. Divided by 1 by 10. N is also 10. So written I have here 10. 2 by 1 by 2 into N, this is 10. So evaluate this, you will get 0.7. So this is the what FPFD value for this order of tests. Now you take an assignment, take the same table. Now order change the orders. Say first T1. Now you change this ordering of the test because I am prioritizing. Suppose T1 is your first priority, right? First T2, then T1, then T4, then T6, then T3, then T5, then T8, then T7, then T10, last T9. So first this order I have given, first T2, any order you just write, last T9. So this is an order. Similarly, you can put this prioritization in many order. Any order you take, my question is find out the FPFD value for those prioritized test cases. This is test case or this is the original test suite. This is on order, on prioritize. You prioritize according to your own convenience. Find out the FPFD values and you have to take the help of this table and see for which priority value you are getting better FPFD. Better FPFD means better rate of fault detection. So in the examination, similar type of question will there. So I have taken one example. Now you change these orderings of T1, T2, T3, T4, T5, T6, T7, T8, T9, T10. Find out the FPFD values. Then only this will you can understand the problem. Still, if you cannot understand, ask me in the next class. So 2 minutes more. So all those things I have explained. All the bugs detected are not of the same level of severity. One bug may be more critical as compared to others. Moreover, the cost of the executed test cases also differ. So in this approach, the cost of the test cases are not taken into account. Moreover, the cost of executing the test cases also differs. One test case may take more time as compared to others. Thus, this FPFD value that we have seen right now, it does not consider the severity level of the box and the cost of executing the test case in the test suite. So this FPFD metric, it has two limitations. It does not consider the severity level of the box as well as cost of executing the test cases in a test suite. So the solution is recently people are using another metric called as APFDC. It stands for cost cognizant APFD and denoted as APFDC. In APFDC, the total cost incurred in all the test cases is represented on x-axis and the total fault severity detected is taken on y-axis. Thus, it measures the unity of fault severity detected per unit test case cost. Okay. Thus, this new metric APFDC, it measures the unity of fault severity detected per unit test case cost. Here we will not go into details of cost cognizant APFD. This is a research area. We'll skip this thing. We'll stop here. So today we have discussed the different remaining testing techniques such as the risk-based, the coverage-based test case prioritization techniques we have already seen earlier. So today we have discussed about risk-based prioritization based on operational profiles, prioritization using relevant slices, prioritization based on requirements. We have also discussed the two metrics, APFD and APFDC, to measure the effectiveness of the prioritization technique. Thank you very much. We have taken in from this Naresh Chauhan book. Thank you very much. Now, if there is any doubt, you can ask. Those who are having classes may leave immediately. Others, those having any classes, can ask. Very important technique. Those who will do research, MTech thesis, or prioritization or PhD thesis, if you do on test case prioritization, you must have to measure the APFD. So please take, as I have already told you, one example I have taken. You take the same example, but reorder the position of the test cases in the test suite. You may take first T2, then T4, then T5, then T1, then T7, T10, then T9, like that. Reorder the test cases and measure the FFD values. Then only you can understand. So whenever you will propose any new prioritization technique, it must have to be supplemented by what is its efficiency by finding the FFD values. All right. So any doubt, please? I hope so. No questions, because not gone through anyway. You can read today and you can ask me the next question in the question in the next class, that is on Thursday.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Ma'am, so ma'am, please check your email. I had sent a mail to attend an international conference on software engineering. I had marked. So those who have registered can attend these things from Thursday. That's the true international conference in software engineering. Many many talks are there, keynote speeches are there. On our testing also, so many papers are there, so many workshops are there. Those who have registered, please attend. This will be very much helpful for you for your MTech thesis and PhD thesis. If any
Sure,
trouble,
sir.
you can.
Sir,
yes,
I'm not
anybody?
able to get the timings actually. I was able to register for it, but somehow I couldn't get the actual timings of the conference.
You see the ISEC website. Please see the ISEC website. ISEC, you saw ISEC 2021. You just search. It's the program is available in the website.
Sure, sir. Sure.
You just look at ISEC 2021 website. The program already uploaded.
Okay, sir.
Okay. Still, if you will not get, you tell me. I will send you.
Sure, sir.
Okay. Then, if no more questions, we will request all of you to attend that conference. The next class we will take on Thursday 9 o'clock. Thank you very much.